Hello, Dr. Miaken Zeigler of Zeigler Chiropractic. Welcome to our conversation on our wellness journey, your wellness journey. And what does that mean? When we really look at what the wellness journey means is, put simply, it's lifetime care. The decisions that we are making on a daily basis in a certain sequence in the most ideal way to experience vitality, to experience wellness, to experience health. And to jump right into the conversation, I think it's important to understand, well, where is the US population in terms of its health care? And right now, on average, per capita, we are spending in the US $9,400. This was in 2014, $9,400 per person annually in healthcare dollars. I mean, my dad's a chiropractor. I can remember when he was in practice, if we look back on the numbers there 30 years ago, that we were the second nearest, we were already a nation spending the most money in the world. And the second nearest was spending a lot of money. We were spending twice as much as that nation back then, and that was $5,000 a person, right? Now we're at $9,400 a person, which is an atrocity when you observe the facts and the evidence of the way in which the world around us operates and lives. No one spends that much money, and no one's healthcare indexes are plummeting as quickly in developed nations as the United States of America. So something is wrong with our system. Ours is not a healthcare system. So let's look at this. We're spending $9,400 per person in healthcare dollars, and these are our outcomes. We have adverse birth outcomes. We have injuries and homicides. We have adolescent pregnancies and sexually transmitted diseases. We have autoimmune deficiency diseases, drug-related mortalities. HIV and AIDS are a problem. Obesity, diabetes, heart disease is the leading cause of death in the US. Chronic lung disease and disability. I mean, these are what we are getting for our $9,400 that we're spending per person in our nation. The top 9 reasons we're considered a nation that is health disadvantaged. So when we're talking about lifetime care, right, if you want to live well, you want to experience wellness and have a life well cared for, then in each time and sequence, in the most ideal way, then you are making choices that uplift your health and well-being. And it's a never-ending stream of choices, right? And quality of options. So the question is, how can you be making those best decisions for you and your health? Because this is the reality of the state of our healthcare. So I find this to be a great quote. People are dying from what they believe to be true. Okay. Now, we can talk a lot about belief and belief systems and where they come from and how we transfer those belief systems down to, our children. There's some people who at one point in time believed that the world was flat, right? There are some people who believe that unicorns are real. Some people don't believe in unicorns, right? But when I'm asked to believe in something, I always ask myself, how can I make a more informed decision? Okay. I know in healthcare, it can be really confusing. And so there's a certain standard that we all turn to. And what we look at is the standard in healthcare is what is the gold standard in research throughout all of human history and in all industries, right? No one can dispute what we say if the gold standard and the appropriate research is done and based on fact. So the gold standard in healthcare is if you take a study of 1,000 people or more that are doing that thing and 1,000 people that aren't doing that thing, and you measure it over the appropriate time indexes. So some studies might take 30 years, but you have to do a double-blind study for the right amount of time and then prove the outcomes. Here's the thing. Almost no one in medicine, what we call healthcare, which is really tragedy intervention or pharmaceutical care, no one does that. So how can we be informed? And the first thing we know for a fact is that we are exceedingly misinformed. I was reading a book this weekend. It's called Regenerate by Sayer G. And he is looking at all the compiled data and research of what we know about cancer. And he's presenting research on breast cancer, saying some malignant breast cancer that we've been treating for chemo and radiation and surgery over the last decades, we're actually finding what the research is showing is that it is benign. It is non-life threatening. And yet we've been treating it as a life-threatening, cancer, and we continue to do so. And that's the problem because, first of all, our medical system isn't up to date on what the current research is showing in this, specific case in cancer, but in many other ways in terms of how we are, delivering healthcare. So people are dying from what they believe to be true is such a true statement. Because people are dying daily for things that they believe. And in many cases, the things they believe are not even legitimate. And that is a challenge. And so that's one of the reasons I do these workshops is that I want you to be more informed, right? I want you to better understand what your options are. I want you to be a critical thinker. I want you to think through what stands before you and what makes sense best for you if what you want is true wellness care, lifetime care, right? Health and well-being. So that's why I do these workshops, is to challenge your current belief system and ask you, are they true? And is what you're doing today with the decisions you're making most supportive in what you want outcome-wise, right? So lifetime care is not a choice. We are all taking care of our spines in a way that is either uplifting and supportive and mindful, or one that is not. Lifetime care is not a choice. So the challenge is, how do you behave, right? And know that your behaviors are contagious because your kids are watching your behaviors all the time. Your doctors are watching your behaviors when they check in with you all the time. People are watching you. Your community is watching you. So how wondrous it would be if we lived and examined life. We lived a life in public, right? Because we know when people are watching us, we tend to make better decisions. We tend to make a more moral decision that is one of integrity because people are holding us accountable. So we know that all people with chronic disease that work in practices where there's a community application of care, that those patients get well faster, they stay well longer, they spend less amounts on healthcare, and when they break down and melt down, they're down for lesser amounts of time, so on and so forth. So lifetime care is not an option, but who we are in the course of those moments and how we show up in those moments matter, right? Because who we are and what we do and our behaviors are a reflection of what we're currently experiencing. So if you want to change your current normal, it starts with you. And you need a community around you who understands the choices you're making and why you're making it, and who can hold you accountable to continue to make those most right decisions and choices. Here's the thing. I mean, we've all heard it. If you look at the financial realm, it's been stated that your financial wealth and well-being is a reflection of the 5 closest friends you have, right? So if you want to make, $500,000 a year, guess what? You need to get a very specific group around you who is operating at that level to bring you up, right? So if you're talking about health and well-being, vitality, you also need to look at who are the people around you, what choices are they making, what behaviors are they exhibiting, and if you want to increase your longevity, increase your health, then your community has to reflect that. So here's the engagement spectrum. I love the engagement spectrum because it is a great way to evaluate where you are, in terms of health or finances or work, whatever it may be, whatever the category is, and where you are engaging in that moment. So if you look at this, you can see the corresponding pictures, the facial expressions down below, right? You see those little facial figures, you see the around me, then you go all the way up to conviction, you see somebody who is floating on clouds, right? This is where you are in terms of your awareness about what you're deciding and how you're going to seek understanding, okay? If you look at this area here, where you got more red, this tends to be more self-centered, more much smaller world, and how you're engaging, your ability to operate and process outside of your world is much more minimal. Versus you go to these higher levels into the blues and the purples. I mean, this person is operating in a very different way in terms of they are convicted in their choices, right? They are convicted to be consistent and show up with discipline, and there is no way they're not going to be doing X, Y, Z because they're convicted, right? So anywhere in between those, we can fall. And one is not bad, one is not good. It's just an indicator as to where you're operating out of. So if we're talking about health and well-being, the question is, in your current health state, right, and your current lifetime care or wellness journey, where are you, right? Do you have a level of awareness? And, I'm not making the best choices. My behaviors for the past couple months or years, have been not consistent with what I desire to be a year from now, right? So I'm going to seek out other options and things that I can do food-wise, things that I can do movement-wise, healthcare modalities I can add in to support further movement towards health and well-being, right? Am I teachable? Am I open to hearing different information to change where my paradigm is? And where's my belief system around that, right? So you can start using, say, the engagement spectrum in a way to identify if you're looking at your current choices in terms of lifetime care and your wellness journey, where are you falling? And if you want to improve, you can use this to identify what areas you can really focus on improving, right? Maybe it's engaging with more spinal workshops. You get a lot out of these workshops. I'm going to be consistent with those and listening to them once a week, because the more I hear this information, the more I hold myself accountable. And I know in those moments of making those decisions, I'm going to make a more healthy, more most right decision in terms of my lifetime care, right? So I love the engagement spectrum to use. Now, here's the thing. When we have an understanding, it really needs to work two ways. Sometimes to feel the strength that I need to deal with a difficult issue, I need to feel understood by someone else. Okay? If I don't if I don't have understanding by my peers, that's what you guys have with each other who are showing up for these workshops, right? That's what you have when you show up to the office and you are engaged in community. You are a group of people in a community that are making similar choices based on what your desires are, right? That's why you look at folks who, can't wait to go to their high school class reunion, right? Because they felt like, oh, those people really understood me. They get me, right? That's why people have a favorite bar. Say, oh yeah, those people, they really get me. I've got my bartender and they understand my experiences, and I got my people who sit alongside me and they're making similar choices, right? You can think about those groups or communities that fit in for you. Maybe it's your church, right? Or your basketball league, right? You feel understood. But it's important to understand that people need to feel understood in order for them to be willing to open up to understand, right? If I don't feel understood, I might not feel the need to go and be understanding. So you can't give someone the chicken pox if you don't have chicken pox, meaning you can't give someone love if you've never experienced it on any level yourself. So sooner or later, someone has to make the break and extend it to someone else. So others need to give you understanding, and then you need to seek to understand, which is what you're doing here. You're seeking to understand more, and then you're growing to become more informed. And growing more informed is profound, because once you, in fact, are more informed, then you can make choices to deal with things. And if you're going to exercise lifetime care, and we go over this all the time, there's no theory, there's no conversation that needs to be had. It's what are the elements of well living? That's where you need to start. What can you do, and what are the things that are going to support and express health? And that's where I love the vital needs triangle. We do this in the office. We say, what are essential to life? What are the hierarchy of needs? Okay. There's no element that human life needs more than electrical connection. It's the magic, you know. The whole story of the movie of Frankenstein, to capture the electricity out of the sky and harness it into the body of a lifeless person on the table, right? That electrical impulse to express life, right? Some people would say that's God's domain, or that's the universal intelligence. That is the source of life. But there's a miracle in that, right? Two cells become one, that spark of life. And then you have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 108 cells accumulate to make you and me up. We are a miracle of life, right? So when we're looking at what is the hierarchy, that is the spark of life. And that's what we're talking about when getting adjusted. We're talking about reconnecting the brain to the body. That is removing any stress, any interference to that spark of life where you can better express health. So the question is, how adjusted are you to allow that miracle to work and to communicate the afferent, so the sensory input, and the efferent, the output, so from the body or from the brain to the body, right? How clear and how well can that communication loop be happening 24/7, every second, every moment of the day for you to express health and integrate all the pieces, right? So that is most vital, right? The second is oxygen. The third is liquids and fluids, your water, and the ability to transport those things throughout all of your tissues. And lastly, we have nutrition, right? Then of course we've got movement, we've got sleep and rest. All of those are vitally important, but there is a hierarchy, right? We're talking in terms of life and in terms of really the most bang for your buck on what's going to be turned on. You give that body electrical charge, boom. You give your body oxygen, boom. These are basic needs. Now, when you're talking about living and expressing life and health, these all blend together. The more you're getting of each, the more it supports better resiliency and health and well-being, right? So I'm not saying one of these or none of these are important. They're all important. It's just when you start turning on specific areas, it enhances all things you're doing, right? A rising tide doesn't just lift one ship, it lifts all of them. So when you start getting adjusted and getting the brain and body better connecting, all the other pieces are going to be processing that much better, which is pretty cool. So there's no higher thing you can do and reach for is say, I want to be a healthy person. And that person, the first thing they should be thinking about is, I want to make sure I'm getting adjusted, right? If somebody claims they want to be healthy, but they're not getting adjusted, they may have, 12% body fat. They may run 7-minute mile. They may brag about the ability to be taking their supplementation and nutrition. But if they're missing the highest issue of they don't have proper electric charge, right? Then they're missing a big component of health. So is your spine, your brain and spinal cord adjusted for maximum connection between your brain and your body? Your connection leads to communication between all parts. And once there's communication, then we can have coordination. Everything works together. And when we work together, we can have health and well-being. So it all begins with the chiropractic adjustment. And let's be clear, the adjustment was a term chosen very specifically and profoundly, right? We adjust, we do not manipulate. We get into it in, the workshop called adjustment versus manipulation, but just, quickly think, there's no accident that gross manipulation, cracking, snapping, right, is referred to as manipulating things. People don't want to be manipulated, but I don't mind adjusting my chair to better hear the wisdom of the soul sitting next to me, right? So the words were profoundly chosen. Doctors of chiropractic perform chiropractic adjustments to enhance the connection, the communication, the coordination, and the health of the life of you, of me. So that's the question. What are you doing to make sure that that sequence moves out, right? Adjustment, connection, communication, all parts, and then coordination. So there's no question that intelligent people, arguably in civilization, it's been proven that people that have the highest output and place the least financial demand or burden upon American healthcare are people under chiropractic care. Are doctors of chiropractic who are receiving chiropractic adjustments. Those are the people, right? So if we are talking about lifetime care of wellness journey, the components we need to look at in order to create optimal health is connection, communication, coordination, and that all culminates to health. So let's just talk about the chiropractic piece. So there we go. So the Gallup poll, which was released in 2015, confirmed the following statistics you see here. Of these, the one I love to talk about is that 49% of the American population at any given time has been to a doctor of chiropractic. So utilization of chiropractic in America is 49%. You're talking about an alternative to tragedy care, something that you don't have to go through because your femur sticking out of your leg or you're spewing blood and have to get stitches. No, people go to those doctors because they have to. People go to chiropractors because they choose to. It's the higher choice in wanting to express life at its ideal best and live in wellness. And that's what people do. 35 million Americans within any 1 year period of time have been to chiropractors when this research was published. So 62 million people over the most immediate 5 years. That's 49% of population have utilized chiropractic care. I would not speak negatively about it. Now moving on, this was out of the journal Manipulative Physiotherapeutics, points out that people aged 65 years and over who receive care from a doctor of chiropractic pursue 50% less visits to medical doctors, those tragedy intervention or crisis intervention, right? That isn't healthy care, right? Tragedy intervention, crisis intervention. So can you imagine the billions, perhaps near $1 trillion annually that could be saved in America if people just lived in this manner? So on the basis of the response of participating chiropractors, this study describes the therapeutic components of maintenance care for elderly patients. For these patients, maintenance care does not simply consist solely of periodic visits of joint manipulation, but it involves an eclectic host of interventions: exercise, nutrition, relaxation, physical therapy, and manipulation. Now, I know I just said manipulation is different from adjustments, but when we're talking about billing to insurance, that is the term they like to use. So that's where we use manipulation in terms of the umbrella of healthcare. So that's the thing. People who go to chiropractors tend to be more informed. They tend to make different decisions around their health. They tend to be open to moving more, stretching, taking and changing their nutrition, so taking supplementation, right? And not only that, but they're healthier structurally to do those movements, which is really wonderful. So I like this stat. This is out of the Spine Journal. You know, when they do satisfaction indexes, that you ask people who've been to different kinds of doctors to rate how they feel about their care, you don't typically see 87% satisfaction indexes, right? Chiropractic care was found to be the most cost-effective and less costly in terms of residual, secondary, tertiary needs for care than any other form of care. In fact, the way that the data was published is that chiropractic was found to cost less and be more effective than medical doctor care and physical therapy care. So 87% patient satisfaction index when people go to chiropractors. So not only is it costing less money, people are healthier, but they're satisfied, right? That's great. So my question for you is, you are here, you're in the right place and you're doing it. So congratulations. And what are you going to do about being here and being in the right place and knowing the things that will continue to support you, right? Surrounding yourself with a community who will hold you accountable to make the most right decisions, right? Every week I come to this place and we do workshops. I sit and I prepare to go over content that I think will better inform you and support a more vitalistic health and lifestyle. But who can you share it with? Because if you're not sharing it with the people you love, then that's a big part of your life, right? If you want somebody to experience what you are, then you've got to bring them alongside you. So first, I would challenge you and ask you, who do you know who needs to hear this information? Will you share it? Secondly, will you invite them into the office? We've got almost 90% satisfaction indices, and people are spending less money in healthcare dollars and living longer, right? So why not share what you know with people that you love? And then secondly, for you personally, is how are you going to act differently, right? What are you going to do today to uplift your health and well-being? Are you going to be more disciplined in your spinal hygiene movements and exercises? What are you going to choose to do? Because it all starts with us. Each one of us can make better choices personally that can impact our community as a whole and make a really profound impact. Okay. You know, as I end this, I share this, how are you going to act differently and how can you commit to lifetime care, right? Be an informed consumer, be a health advocate for you and your family, and how can you share that with people you know? I'm here to partner alongside you. Know that when you are showing up in the office and when you are getting adjusted and you are committing to a year's worth of care or multiple years worth of care, know that you are investing in your health and well-being. You are disciplined and you are doing the things that really, I think, you know, the outcomes when we're talking about lifetime care, your outcomes are much different than the average person. So, I mean, really, truly, congratulations on the choice that you continue to make to show up for you. You know, and I'm honored to be a part of your journey, and you are choosing to partner with me. I'm doing the work too. I want longevity and vibrancy and vitality. I want that for you and your family. So appreciate you. I look forward to hearing your takeaways from this conversation, whether it's in the office or if you comment below. But love and appreciate you, Dr. Miaken Zeigler of Zeigler Chiropractic, and I will see you guys next time. Take care.